Every choice you make in life comes down to one fundamental question. Are you living for yourself or for the approval of others? The answer shapes everything. Your career path, your relationships, even your deepest sense of self-worth. The most profound prison isn't built with walls and bars, but with the opinions of other people. And the key to that prison? It's been in your pocket all along. Today, we're exploring a radical perspective on happiness from the book The Courage to be Disliked, written by philosopher Ichiro Kishimi and author Fumitake Koga. Their work draws on the psychological theories of Alfred Adler, who proposed something truly revolutionary: that freedom and happiness don't come from being universally liked. They come from having the courage to be disliked. This isn't about becoming deliberately unlikable. It's about understanding that your worth isn't determined by others' approval, and that chasing validation is the surest path to unhappiness. In this episode, we'll examine why we become trapped in approval seeking, how it undermines our relationships and sense of self, and most importantly, how to break free. Kishimi and Koga make a striking claim at the beginning of their book. There is no such thing as worry that exists in isolation. Every worry you experience is connected to other people. Think about what concerns you right now. Maybe it's your performance at work, your appearance, or a decision you need to make. Now ask yourself, would this still worry you if no one else existed? If no one would ever know? The answer reveals something profound. Worry is social. It's not about the task itself, but about how others might judge your handling of it. Let's say you're anxious about public speaking. Is it the act of speaking that frightens you? Or is it the fear of judgment, of appearing incompetent, of being rejected? Strip away the audience and the fear dissolves. This insight is our starting point, recognizing that much of our suffering stems not from life's challenges themselves, but from our concern about how others perceive us facing those challenges. To understand why approval seeking is so damaging, we need to first understand how our sense of self operates. According to Adler, we aren't simply products of our past experiences. Instead, we are always moving toward goals, even if we're not consciously aware of them. Our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are all unified and directed toward specific aims. Nothing we feel or do is random. Everything serves a purpose. Kishimi and Koga expand on this by challenging a common assumption, that our personality is fixed. They argue that what we call personality is actually a lifestyle, a set of habits, thoughts, and emotions we've chosen because they help us reach our goals. For example, someone who appears shy isn't inherently shy. They've adopted shyness as a strategy to achieve something, perhaps to avoid rejection or to maintain a comfortable distance from others. This perspective is liberating because it means nothing about us is permanently fixed. If we've chosen our current way of being, we can choose differently. One of the most counterintuitive ideas from Kishimi and Koga is that we don't just feel emotions randomly, we create them to serve our goals. Consider this scenario. You want a promotion at work, but you feel overwhelming anxiety whenever you think about asking for it. Traditional thinking suggests that if you could overcome this anxiety, you'd be able to ask for the promotion. But what if the anxiety itself is serving a purpose? From Adler's perspective, the anxiety might be a tool you're using to avoid the risk of rejection. Your conscious mind says, I want that promotion, but your deeper goal might be to protect yourself from possible failure or disappointment. So you create anxiety as a convenient excuse. I couldn't ask because I was too anxious. This isn't to say your feelings aren't real. They absolutely are. But understanding that they might be serving a purpose beyond what's immediately obvious gives you the power to question them, rather than simply being controlled by them. A common belief is that our past, especially our traumas, determines our present and future. We tell ourselves, because of what happened to me, I can't be happy, or my childhood made me this way. Kishimi and Koga challenge this deterministic view. They acknowledge that past experiences may influence us, but they don't dictate who we are or what we can become. They write, "We are not determined by our experiences, but by the meaning we give them." Our past doesn't define us, our interpretation of our past does. Think about two people who experience similar childhood hardships. One might use that experience as a reason to never trust others, while another might develop extraordinary empathy from understanding suffering firsthand. The experiences were similar, but the meaning assigned to them, and thus their impact on each person's life, was entirely different. This isn't about dismissing genuine trauma or suggesting that healing is simply a matter of thinking differently. It's about recognizing that no matter what has occurred in your life until now, you still have the freedom to determine how you live from this moment forward. If happiness is truly within our control, why would anyone choose unhappiness? This seems counterintuitive, but Kishimi and Koga suggest that unhappiness can actually be a strategy, a means to an end. Occasional unhappiness is normal and unavoidable, but chronic unhappiness often stems from pursuing a frustrating, unattainable goal. And for many people, that goal is earning universal approval. When we make others' approval our measure of success, we create a condition for happiness that's impossible to satisfy consistently. Someone, somewhere, will always disapprove of you. By setting approval as your goal, you're essentially choosing unhappiness by default. But there's something even deeper at work here. Sometimes unhappiness serves as protection. It keeps us from risking rejection, failure, or disappointment. If we're already unhappy, we have a ready excuse not to try, not to connect, not to put ourselves in vulnerable positions. It's a painful paradox. We choose unhappiness to avoid the possibility of unhappiness. Kishimi and Koga explain that when we interact with others, we're generally pursuing one of two goals: seeking approval or making a positive impact. Unhappy people tend to make gaining approval their primary goal. They believe that being liked by others makes them good, worthy people. Their self-worth becomes conditional on external validation. But this approach comes with a heavy price. When you live according to others' expectations, you sacrifice your freedom. Your choices are no longer truly yours. They're shaped by your prediction of what others want from you. As Kishimi and Koga write, to live one's life trying to gauge other people's feelings and being worried about how they look at you, to live in such a way that others' wishes are granted, it is a very unfree way to live. Think about the last time you made a decision primarily to please someone else. How did it feel? Did it bring you closer to that person? Did it make you feel more authentic or less? The answers reveal much about whether approval seeking is serving you well. The most frustrating aspect of seeking approval is that it's ultimately impossible to achieve completely. No matter what you do, someone will disapprove. No matter how you live, someone will judge you. When people realize they can't win universal approval, they often respond in one of two ways. First, they might simply give up trying, but giving up doesn't free them from desiring approval. It only deepens their attachment to it. They still want approval. They've just concluded they can't get it. Second, they might decide something is fundamentally wrong with them. They tell themselves, I'm unlovable, or I'm broken, or no one could like the real me. This belief becomes a self-protective shield. If they're inherently flawed, then rejection isn't their fault. It's inevitable. But this shield also traps them. By believing they're fundamentally flawed, they close the door to growth and change. They settle into unhappiness as if it were their natural state. When we make approval our primary goal, we transform life into a competition. Every interaction becomes a contest with winners and losers. This happens because approval is often conditional and limited. If someone is praised for being the best at something, that praise can only go to one person. If others succeed, they raise the bar, making it harder for you to earn the same approval. In this mindset, other people's successes feel threatening. Their achievements don't inspire us, they diminish us by comparison. This is why unhappy people sometimes secretly celebrate others' failures rather than offering support. Imagine you and a friend both apply for the same job. If your sense of worth depends on external validation, one of you must lose for the other to win. But if your worth comes from your intrinsic value as a human being, you can genuinely hope your friend succeeds, even if you don't get the position. Kishimi and Koga explain that once we're released from this competitive mindset, the need to triumph over someone disappears. life stops being a zero-sum game. Another consequence of approval seeking is that it turns relationships into transactions. Unhappy people believe relationships are founded on sacrifice and reciprocity rather than genuine connection. Consider someone who organizes a lavish birthday party for a friend. On the surface, this seems like a generous act. But if the person feels resentful when the friend doesn't reciprocate with equal enthusiasm, it reveals the true nature of the gesture. It wasn't a gift, it was an unspoken contract. When we give to get something in return, even if that something is just recognition or gratitude, we're not truly giving, we're trading. And when the other person doesn't hold up their end of a bargain they never agreed to, resentment festers. This approach poisons what could be meaningful connections. Instead of enjoying the natural flow of give and take that occurs in healthy relationships, everything becomes measured and evaluated. So what's the alternative to seeking approval? Kishimi and Koga suggest focusing on contribution instead. Happy people find joy in helping others not because it makes them look good, but because it genuinely fulfills them. Their sense of worth comes from believing they're useful to someone, not from being praised for their usefulness. This isn't selfless sacrifice. In fact, happy people help others primarily for their own benefit, because contributing makes them feel good. While this might sound selfish, it's actually sustainable. When helping others brings you genuine joy, you don't need external rewards to motivate you. Kishimi and Koga explain, if one really has a feeling of contribution, one will no longer have any need for recognition from others, because one will already have the real awareness that I am of use to someone. This shift from seeking approval to focusing on contribution transforms how we view relationships. They're no longer competitions or transactions. They're opportunities for mutual growth and support. Perhaps the most liberating idea from Kishimi and Koga is that you don't need to do anything extraordinary to have value. Simply by existing, you bring joy to others. This isn't empty encouragement. Think about the people you care about. Isn't their mere presence in your life a source of comfort and happiness? You value them not just for what they do, but for who they are. The same applies to you. Your worth isn't measured by your achievements or how well you meet others' expectations. You matter simply because you exist. This perspective allows for true self-acceptance. You can acknowledge your mistakes and imperfections without letting them define you. You can grow and improve without tying your fundamental worth to that improvement. And when you truly believe that everyone has intrinsic value, you stop seeing others' success as a threat. You can genuinely celebrate their achievements because they don't diminish your own worth. Finally, happy people focus on the present rather than fixating on the past or future. They recognize that happiness isn't a distant destination. It's available in each moment. This doesn't mean abandoning goals or ignoring the future. It means finding meaning and joy in the journey itself rather than postponing happiness until you reach some predetermined endpoint. Kishimi and Koga explain that many people believe they need to achieve something significant to be happy, but happiness comes from recognizing the positive impact you already have, however small it might seem. Find meaning in daily interactions. Appreciate small contributions. Take pleasure in the process of growth, rather than fixating solely on results. So we return to where we began, the courage to be disliked. No matter what you do, some people won't approve. This isn't a tragedy. It's simply the reality of living in a world filled with different perspectives, values, and expectations. The only way to find lasting happiness is to accept this reality and have the courage to live according to what you believe is good, regardless of others' opinions. This isn't about dismissing feedback or living selfishly. It's about reclaiming your freedom to choose your own path, rather than letting that choice be dictated by the fear of disapproval. Freedom isn't found in universal approval. It's found in the courage to be yourself even when others disapprove. It's about living with integrity rather than living for applause. So ask yourself, who would you be if you weren't afraid of being disliked? What choices would you make if approval weren't a factor? What passions would you pursue if judgment weren't a concern? The answers to these questions point toward a life of authenticity, freedom, and yes, true happiness. Because ultimately, the courage to be disliked is the courage to be yourself. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode.